What's up? What's up? So today it is just me, I think. I think. I'm not sure. But good thing, lucky for you guys, I can talk for days. And when we're talking about audio, it's all good. Good morning. I see some of you guys here in the chat. John, Van Gould, True Voice of Reason, Steven, of course, Tim Perry. What's going on, guys? So yeah, I think today I'm just gonna answer some questions and just hang out. I don't really have too much planned for today. I don't think I ever I don't really do. What's up? What's poppin' slime? All right. What's going on? Lone Wolf tonight? Yeah, I think so. You never know. Aaron might pop in. You just never know. Um, but yeah, why don't you guys it'll just be us. How about that? So if you guys have any questions, sometimes it's hard to get a hold of me because I'm answering questions all over the place on Discord, on various forum posts, on my YouTube channel, just kind of everywhere, emails, phone calls. So, yeah, this is your chance. If you have a question specifically that you want me to answer, this is your chance. So, if not, that's okay. We can figure something out. Let's see here. Somebody asked already a question. Van Gool asked ELAC 3.0 versus I assume he means Emotiva speakers, looking at upgrading from Yamo. So I haven't tried the Emotiva speakers. I have heard the ELAC 3.0 at the show, the trade show. I thought it sounded very good, but it was hard to tell because their room was treated really well, right? So I told Chris Walker over there at ELAC, I said, hey, you know what? You have the best sounding room, meaning your room sounds the best. Yeah, they just had a bunch of treatment. And so next time, if I do another event, I'm going to put up all kinds of treatment because it really helped out. 1 second here. What is that? I see some. Mike Simpson said, I need that Daily HiFi hat, snapback or fitted. This one is a snapback. It has right there, Daily HiFi Crew. So yeah, you can get some merch too if you'd like. Where is that? shop.dailyhifi.com. But back to the question here. ELAC or Emotiva, because I haven't tried the Emotiva, I can't say. I can only say just based on looks, right? Based on looks, I just like the way the ELAC stuff looks better. The Emotiva, to me, I don't know if the new one has that weird shape, but the old one kind of reminded me of some kind of coffin shape. And you have to look at these things, right? And I know it's supposed to be just about audio, but realistically, the looks matter. But yeah, the ELAC 3.0, I'm actually, I'm supposed to review the bookshelf, but I just have so many things that I still need to review. Like I've teased that, I got the Tone Winner, I got the Zedu UHD, what was it? UHD 8000. I have these Aperion Audio A5s. I have the Philharmonic BMR. Speaking of speakers that look awesome, I open those things up. I'm like, dang, seriously. Like, I've seen some nice high-end speakers, at these events, ridiculously priced speakers. And when I open these up, they look like that. They have that high gloss finish, some rosewood, right? I don't even know what rosewood is. All I know is it looks expensive. And wow, they look great. And so I've started listening to them, but I'll leave that for my review. But yeah. Overall, I like them, but I'll get into detail in my review about like different situations where they would work and when they wouldn't. Let's see. So hopefully that answers your question about the ELAC a little bit. What do you like the look of, first of all, right? Another question here. John Auer says, have a Marantz Cinema 50. Still trying to decide between Odyssey and Dirac. Is Dirac that much better with Magic Beans? Yeah, this is a question I get a lot. And I would say there's a trade-off. There's a trade-off with everything you do when it comes to audio and in life, right? In life, and I would say here's the trade-off. Dirac, the positive, the pro is that it aligns the phase full range. So you can imagine the phase is kind of all over the place. So they do some kind of impulse response correction, and they use FIR mix of FIR and IIR filters in a smart way so that you're not getting a bunch of delay, kind of getting the best of both worlds. And they're able to align the phase on the top end specifically that I'm impressed with. And what happens is it really helps with the imaging. All right, so you get a very cohesive and pinpoint imaging. On our spatial toolkit, we have a timing test where we play kind of like a burst tone, full range burst tone out of all the speakers at the same time. And when you play that on your system, if the timing is a little bit off on all the speakers, what you kind of hear is like, doo, 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 right? It just kind of like you can tell that the sound is coming from all the different speakers. With Dirac, what I found is it just sounds like it's coming from somewhere slightly in front of the center channel, right? So it's coming from all the speakers, but because we're better at hearing in front of us, instead of imaging so it's in the middle of my head, it images slightly in front of me, which kind of makes sense, right? Our hearing acuity is better in front of us. So that's the one thing that Dirac does that's very special. If you're talking about Dirac Live bass control, it's also very good at aligning multiple subwoofers in case you don't want to get into, using a mini DSP or something like that. So that's the pro. There's a lot of pros for Dirac, I'll tell you. It does a very good job. And then it makes it pretty easy to just import Magic Beans on top of that. You tell the target curve, all good. Here's the downside, though. The downside is the way that Dirac works is it takes measurements, say your U mic, so you can use your mic. It'll take the measurements from the main listening positions, one or however many you want to do, and then it takes that and it corrects that to flat first. And when it corrects it to flat, that is the baseline from which you start correcting. So think about that for a second. Takes the measurement from the main listening position, makes it flat, and then conforms that to the target response. Now, I would prefer to actually not have it do that correction first, because with Magic Beans, we're taking near field and main listening position measurements, and we already can provide corrections based on the near field and the main listening position, so a combination of both. Whereas Dirac doesn't have any near field measurements. So in some ways, it may be overcorrecting. And this is what Odyssey typically does also if you just run it straight. But with Multi-QX, what you can do is you can exclude all of the things that Odyssey does and say, it just basically don't do anything. And your AVR acts like a mini DSP where what you import is not the target curve, but the target filters. So you're going to tell it, I'm going to use my own measurements and I'll tell you how to correct these speakers. And in some ways, Odyssey with Multi-QX will give you just a smoother tonal response. It doesn't do that initial correction. So tonally, I think you can get a superior response, but it doesn't do some of that phase alignment stuff that Dirac does. So I wish it had both, right? I wish Dirac actually would just say, you know what, we can do all that alignment, but we won't make an initial correction. Just tell us the corrections you want, and we'll still do all the alignment. That would be perfect, but yeah, I know that was a long answer, but I wanted to make sure to give you the right choices. Yeah. All right. Let me take a sip of water. That was a lot of talking. Mosin, how you doing? Mosin says, I just want to get more feedback how to use Magic Beans with Tone Winner AT300. Thanks. Yeah, so the new version of Magic Beans actually has a Tone Winner AT export option, which just basically means the Tone Winner has preset Oh, yeah. Yeah. 1 second. Thank you, John, for the super chat. I appreciate you. $5 super chat. Thank you. Okay. So yeah, we have an export for the AT300, and all that means is that they have preset PEQs, right? So they have frequencies that you can choose from. It's not like you can just enter in any frequency. There are a list of frequencies, and then how much gain, is different. And yeah, gain and the Q is preset also. So we needed to conform the export so that it matches what that can import. And it works, and I've been doing it. The only problem is there's no way to import it like with Dirac, right? You import the files. So if you have 11 speakers, import 11 speakers or 11 files, you're done. Kind of the same thing with Odyssey. You import the 11 filters, and you're kind of done, right? And that's with the computer. With the Tone Winner, the only way to import PEQs is through a remote control. So imagine each speaker, well, the front speakers have 11 bands of PEQ, 3 settings for each one. And imagine doing all that with a remote. Multiply how many that is out, and you'll find out like that's a lot of up and down, left, right, up. Even trying to type a password with a remote is already hard. So imagine trying to enter in all your PEQs. So I'm talking with them, and hopefully we'll be able to make it easier for someone to import. What I would like is, since the Tone Winner doesn't have Ethernet, doesn't have Wi-Fi. I was hoping that there would be a way to use the USB stick, because you can do backups and stuff, to be able to load your Magic Beans calibration through the USB stick. So we'll have to wait and see if they can do that, but hopefully. And also, I haven't tried it on the Emotiva MC1, I think, or the IOTA VX, but those things look pretty much the same. So I'm assuming our export will work on those. Still got to do it manually though. Tech support, man, a lot of Magic Beans questions. Okay, so I appreciate it, by the way. Any plans for Magic Beans integration with Anthem Arc? Not really. I know a lot of people have been asking for that, and I'm sorry. The reason being that Anthem Arc, from what I've seen, is very limited in what it allows you to change after it's done its thing. It'll allow you to kind of mess with the bass, with the treble, just a few options here and there, but it's not going to allow you to create your own target curve. It's not going to allow you to do your own shape, and that's a shame. That's a shame, because I don't know. I guess the assumption is whatever they're doing is already the correct way, so they don't think that you should be able to do that. I don't know. Maybe they think that it's so good that all it is a season to taste, salt and pepper, right? Treble and bass, and you're done. I don't think that that's the case, because from my understanding, they're not doing any near field measurements, so they can't possibly do the same types of things that we can do with Magic Beans. But I think if enough people ask them to allow for a target curve import, they might listen. I don't know. I don't know what kind of company they are. I haven't reviewed any of their stuff, so. Wendell, what's up? What's up, Joe? Do I go to the Magic Beans website and get everything I need? Yeah, there's a list of all the things that you need on that website. And UMic 1, the software that you might want to take a look at. So it's all there. All right. Thanks for all the Magic Beans questions. How long was that? That was 15 minutes of Magic Beans questions. All right. Let me get this off the screen. Somebody's asking about the RZ50 as Dirac Live. Okay. So the RZ270 Onkyo has the Dirac Live bass control ability. Yeah. Static Age asks, when will we see Magic Beans in iOS and how good is it for 2-channel calibration? I've answered this before. The iOS part is just that they want 30%. And you can kind of like appeal and try to get it down to 15%, which I think is crazy high considering I don't feel like they're offering very much value to me. So right now you can actually still download it using the Test Flight app. Right. So if you download Test Flight on an iOS device and go to our website and click on that, you can download the iOS version. So yeah, basically you can still run it on iOS. It's just putting it on App Store is a whole different thing that I'm not ready for yet. I don't know if we could, let's just say that it would require some development, right? So all it is basically would have to make it so that you could pay using Apple Pay so that the Apple could get their cut. So all the stuff I'd be doing, all the extra work would just be not for you guys, not necessarily so you guys could add, something great, a great new feature. It's just so Apple could get their cut. And I don't feel great about that. Having to work just so I can pay somebody. Not really my style. So, but if it's really something that you guys want, like, oh, I want to be able to just download it and on the App Store, I get it too, But they also want you to pay through the App Store. We'll see. Let's see here. Yes. Again, thank you for the super chat. iOS, so I answered that one. Thank you again for the super chat. Let me get that off the screen. Okay. I like this one from Paul. He says, any first thoughts on the new FTC rules implementing in October? You know what? I fell asleep to a YouTuber who goes by Lon Seidman, Lon TV. I don't know if you guys ever watch him, but he does a lot of reviews on Plex. I'm sure you may have seen that, Croson. But I fell asleep, right? But he was, some of the things that he was talking about was just, I'm not sure. Basically, I'm not sure what all of it is about, right? I don't know what it pertains to. But one of the things that I saw that I kind of laughed at is that I guess they're going to cut down on people with fake subscribers. And I won't call out any names. You guys can call out all the names you want. I'm not going to. But, cutting down on fake subscribers, which I think is silly anyway. You're going to pump up your subscriber numbers on YouTube for what? I guess so they can get some more free stuff from companies because they can say, hey, look at me. I have 1 billion subscribers or whatever. I don't know. I mean, for me, truthfully, I wish that they would find out. Basically, I feel like there should be a punishment of some sort if people are trying to deceive you, right? So I've done sponsored stuff before, and I just say, hey, this is sponsored by this company. If you don't trust me, then don't watch my video. But a lot of times, if you watch some of those videos, I'm saying negative things about those companies. Like, it's almost the opposite of what you might think. I feel more obligated to say negative things because I don't want somebody to say, oh, he's going to, he's a shill. I don't care. This is not my main thing. You know what I mean? So I'm not worried about anything that it says there. I think it's kind of funny. When I heard that, I thought it was going to be like, I like it. I like it. I want it to be as strict as possible because if you're playing by the rules and others are cheating, maybe they're getting ahead in some way meaning getting more subscribers, which means to getting more ad revenue, right? And getting more stuff to review because people are saying, oh, this guy's the guy. Joe and Tell, he only has 85,000. That guy only posts once a month, and that's all true. That is all true. It's summer. I haven't made a video in a while, but I do these every week. right? Um, so I'm not playing the same games, you know? I don't care about subscriber counts. I have my own app. You know, I have other things that I'm doing. I create stuff. So, I'm not worried about any of that stuff. I would wish that it's as strict as possible because the things that I see in audio reviews is I don't know, it's kind of discouraging to me, right? Because I know what the truth is. I know what the deals are that are happening behind the scenes because sometimes I'll get emailed and it'll be an email to all of them and there'll be the one dumb guy. Sorry, don't mean to call out the dumb guy, but who will respond with his pricing, all this stuff, and there's supposed to be a BCC, but he'll CC everyone, and so everybody will see uh what he's saying and putting out this pricing and all this stuff, and you're just like, oh my, these are all guys you probably know, and I have to be quiet because is it my business? Not my business, really, right? It's not my. I have my own stuff going on. The toolkit. I have Magic Beans. It's not really my business, but at the same time, I'm operating in the same space, right? So it kind of feels weird. Like, do I want to play in this space? It discourages me from actually wanting to review stuff because I don't want to be associated with those people, right? So when I first started making YouTube videos, my thing was I saw Z reviews, and he had the GoPro, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like I would watch those videos, and I was like happy to see anything that's speaker related because there weren't very many reviews back then. But I'm like, you know what? I've made videos before. I can make a nice video, make it look all cinematic and cool, right? And that was that's how I wanted to do things. Like I wanted to look nice, and I'd take my time, take like a week to just like film and like make it look nice. But others started kind of doing something similar, but they forgot the part where you're supposed to tell the truth. You know what I mean? Like that's cool to make it look nice. That's all good. Like that's just something fun to do. But that's not a replacement for taking the time to actually review something, tell the truth about it. That's basically it. And I guess I'm on a little bit of a rant here, but I don't think that a lot of these guys, a lot of other reviewers are purposely trying to lie. I really don't think most of them are like that. I think it's just that some of them may be a little bit less informed about acoustics and psychoacoustics and measurements, and so they might say something that you're like, not because they're trying to mislead people. It's just that they have a lack of they might have a lack of knowledge. And to me, you're supposed to be, I think if you're going to do something, be extremely good at it. So being good doesn't just mean having great video, having a great script and doing all that. That's important for being a YouTuber. But you should know about acoustics and attribute things to the right things. Is it your room? Is it the speaker? I think that's part of the game. So hopefully people like Aaron, hopefully people like Aaron who measures, and I try to do a little bit of educational type of stuff. Hopefully we're I don't know, changing stuff in some way where maybe the viewers have higher expectations of other reviewers, and hopefully they change and they get better. So how does this relate to FTC stuff? To me, if you're doing the right things, you don't really have anything to worry about, right? I don't have to look. You just tell the truth. You tell the truth. This is what's happening. You're honest. Where does it go from there? What else do you have to know? Let's see here. Revive Creative says what you're talking about is an industry-wide phenomenon. If people don't provide agreeable reviews, the manufacturers cut them off. Gerald Undone just released a video. Yeah, I watched that. I watched that video. And you know what? I think the way I look at it, YouTube is a media platform, right? They need to advertise. And so you're starting to realize like, oh, it's a little bit, all this stuff is kind of marketing, right? And if you're not doing something that's helping them sell ads or view time or whatever they're trying to do. YouTube usually uses watch time as a metric, and that's their business, right? So I get to upload videos for free. Right? I make the content, yeah, but I have to store them somewhere. And think about all the gigs, terabytes of videos that I'm uploading, and they have to process all of it and serve it to everybody. And that's all for free. You guys get to watch me. We can do this live stream over YouTube. I'm not paying, right? What I pay for is I guess I'm paying in some way. I'm paying in my time and effort. But if I think that they, I guess, owe me something, then maybe that's on me. You know, to me, I'm talking about Magic Beans. That's helping me with my sales and all that stuff. So I'm not really complaining about it. You know, that's just the way the game goes. That's just the way the game goes. and some people choose to play it. I don't really play the game the way that other people play it. And if they choose to play it that way, that's fine. That's on them. John R says, I watched a video of some interconnects you reviewed some years ago. I bought some off that NB speaker cable in Australia. Hopefully they sent me a bottle of snake oil to give some lube. Yeah, that was an old video. If you guys haven't seen it, just if you type in Joe and Tell and speaker cables or something like that, this company from Australia, they sent me some cables with a bottle that said snake oil on it. And they were just being fun with it because they said, you know what? We make speaker cables that look good, that are made well. And that was their claim. They didn't say anything beyond that. So I like that. Let's see here. Van Gool says, you guys are honest, and Aaron will say if he doesn't like the speakers. Yeah. Well, when you're doing measurements, you kind of can't. It's harder to lie about them, right? Like, I guess you can omit things and you can interpret it in a different way. That's one way you can do it, but it's much harder, right? When you have objective data, the data keeps you in check. And I don't know. At a certain point, you know, I don't know how many of you guys are at that point where you just stop caring a little bit. You stop caring what other people think and you just care about what you do. That's kind of where I'm at right now. I haven't made a video in a while. It was summer. I spent time with the kids. We hung out. Just spending a ton of time with the family. You know, had a few house projects here and there. Where's Jeremy at? He said that if I talk about cold plunges that he's out. So I figured I'd throw it out there. But yeah, just working on stuff like that. And audio is just one aspect. And hanging out with you guys I like doing this, right? So what else? FTC stuff. You guys can tell me if there are any other things about the FTC that I should know about. You know, if you saw something there that would pertain to audio reviews. Yeah, audio reviewers. You know. Oh, I guess I don't know if I said this, but I think what I would like for the FTC to say is if you are a shill, like somehow like obviously getting paid and not okay, this is the thing that I hate the most. There's a button that says that if you received something, some form of payment or compensation for a product, you're supposed to check this button that says paid advertisement, right? How many people do not do that? And it's obviously a paid advertisement. But the problem is I don't think that there's a punishment. Right? To me, if there's any chance that it seems kind of like I got compensated in some way, I check the box, right? Who cares? Just check the box and tell people. But so many reviewers don't do that. You know? I don't like that. It's just right there. It's built into YouTube. You upload the thing and you check the box, and that's it. So yeah, I feel like there should be a punishment for that, and it'll make the game more fun. You know, I think it'll make the game of YouTube more fun. I I am seriously, that's part of the reason why I don't like to do reviews. I just don't want to be associated with any of that. And it's actually changed the way that I do reviews. I feel like my reviews aren't as fun anymore because I'm like, I don't want to seem like a shill. And that sucks, you know? That sucks because I sometimes I just like something and I just want to say, hey, I really like this thing, but I'm like, I don't want to seem like a shill. So I'll just stick to the data, whatever. Anyway, another part of the FTC thing that I saw though is that it seemed like the companies can't sue you, something like that, like where you can't sue somebody for having an opinion. I like that part because we've seen that a few times in this audio space where company doesn't like the review, they go and sue or threaten to sue. So I would like to see less of that. Um, let's see here. Answer some of your starred comments here. Mosin, how to decide home theater seats? Lots of options, but quite pricey. Valencia is always on YouTube, but on YouTube video, but pricey option. Okay, so here we go. Valencia sent me a bunch of seats, right? And they are the best at like reaching out to YouTube reviewers, right? But what do I know about other seats? You know, are there other options that are more affordable that are very similar, maybe even from the same place? Maybe. I don't know enough about them. So that's what's tricky about this whole thing. You know, I should be able to tell you what's the best one at a certain price, but it's one of those things. How I'm not a seat reviewer. You know, they offered to send me some, and I'm like, oh, that'd be cool. I'll show them in my theater. But as far as shopping around for the best possible seats, I'm sure others here can give you better advice. I mean, I can tell you one thing that I would look for. I see somebody else is saying Seatcraft, right? One thing I might look for if I were you is think about whether you want a high back, because a lot of times you just see it and it looks more comfy because you know got the head part. But if you think about the speakers behind you, a lot of times the seat back occludes the speakers behind you. And if you're even the speakers in front of you, what ends up happening is sometimes the sound hits, let's say if it's leather, boom, it hits the back, and that becomes kind of like a reflection point. So my recommendation would be to perhaps get one that doesn't have that. I've seen some where there's kind of like a smaller headrest that comes up. Maybe look at something like that. You know. But yeah, they're cool. I don't think they can get expensive. I don't know. get some seats that look cool that people say last a long time. Yeah. I don't have very many others to compare to. Here's another one. Paul says row 1 was very comfortable. And here's another one for seating. So yeah, you may want to just like jot those down, take a look at them. And one thing I can say is the support from Valencia is pretty good. You know, like dealing with them, they're pretty responsive. So that's all I can say about it. I like the seats, but I can't say whether they're better or worse than the others. What else we got? What else we got here? Okay, 4 seating is equals Seatcraft, Cali local supplier. Yeah. Peter says I seem to have better sound off my Denon last days. Glad work is starting to pay off, improving. Okay. Rich also says row 1. And Marv is taking delivery of Klipsch RP 1400 SW on a pallet now. Oh, we got the sunglasses on. That's exciting. Exciting stuff. Revive Creative says, Joe, do you do client builds, right? I'm not sure what that means. Client builds? Do you mean like going to somebody's house and like setting up their system? I'll tell you what I do is I offer remote calibration services where if somebody has magic beans, maybe they don't have magic beans, and they want me to calibrate their system. And a lot of this stuff we can do remotely, and you'd be surprised that a lot of times I think it might even be faster than if I went over there. Because if I went there, a lot of it would be driving, doing all this setup and talking, hey, yeah, blah, 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 this and that. Versus when you do a remote calibration, we just get right into it. You know, do you have a microphone? All right. Do you have a test tone generator? How many speakers do you have? They send me some photos. It's very quick. And I'm able to calibrate their system. And yeah, I don't get to hear it, but the measurements tell me what I need to what I need to see. You know, I trust the measurement. I trust the measurements. And at the end, the client gets to listen to it, and I say, hey, do you like it? You know, message me in a few days and let me know if you still like it or if you need to adjust anything. And almost always, it's just after we're done, they're happy. That's it. You know, I always offer, do you want me to adjust something later? And I have very rarely had anybody say, yeah, I want a little more bass or treble. They're happy. So yeah, you can take a look at that. If you go to joeandtell.com/MB. So let's see. Do I have a banner for that? joeandtell.com/. I'll make one real quick. joeandtell.com/M. Well, actually, not MB. Sorry, /booking. Boom. joeandtell.com/booking, and you'll see all the openings for time slots. I should advertise that a little bit more, but you know, all good. Let's see here. How long do you need to do a remote calibration? 7.1.4. I think 7.1.4 depends on whether you have magic beans and you have all the stuff, but 7.1.4 we could probably get done depending on how many subs you have also, because a lot of times people say 7.1 but they have 4 subs or something. I think maybe about I'd like to keep, say, like maybe 3 to 4 hours, but if it takes 2 hours, then I only charge you for 2 hours, right? But I would rather overestimate rather than say, oh, it's going to be 2 hours and then do 4 hours, then that's not so good for me. Right? But I try to overestimate, but what can help is really just being prepared, right? I have a list of all the stuff that you need. Get ready, maybe even practice a few things. And basically the way it works is I need for the person to play the test tones and place the mic and move the mic where I need the mic to be. So that's basically it. If I could move the mic remotely, then I could pretty much do everything. So yeah. Paul Gross says, are there tutorial videos for Magic Beans and spatial audio calibration? Yes. If you go to my channel and Chana's channel, Joe and Tell, let's see, playlist. Yeah. So we have tutorials specifically for Magic Beans, and it's in the Discord group, and it's for people who've already purchased it. So if you already bought Magic Beans, you'll get access to the Discord group. But it's unlisted because I don't know why somebody who doesn't have it would need tutorials on how to use the app. So, but for the toolkit, we do have a playlist for that. And let me see if I can share that right now. Share. If you just go to, I'll put another link here. Okay. Banners, paste, add banner. Okay. YouTube.com/@JoeandTell/playlist. So you should see one there for the spatial audio calibration toolkit, and you'll see a bunch of different playlists. I mean, a bunch of different videos, tutorials on how to do level matching, speaker pairs, timing, all the stuff. It's all there. Boom. How do you? Oh man. Oh, very important. How do you? Okay, so Static H says, how do you like your hot dogs? Microwave, boiled, grilled, air fryer, or other? This is a very serious question. So microwave, if you're in a rush, you do the microwave, but the problem is sometimes you get those weird like boils, right? Boiled is, I guess, maybe the healthier way to do it. You get an even, nice and even. But I would have to go grilled because you get those grill marks and it feels official. Feels like a party. Air fryer, I've never tried. So I've never tried an air fryer. Is that a thing? Air frying hot dogs? I don't know. So you guys let me know. Let's see here. Let me get this off the screen. Mosin 9.1.4 or 7.1.6, which is your preference? Thanks. I haven't tried either one in my system, so I'm going just based on what theory, right? And Chana will always say 7.1.6 because he says that you'll get, Atmos sounds better when you have 6, because if you have like a static mix and it's just the two heights, it'll only use like, the middles. And if you want to use Oro 3D, then you'll use the middles and it'll image as if it's a voice of God. So that's one reason why you might want to do 7.1.6. A lot of times the wides are not utilized. So you'd have to have, this is a discussion we had last time, you'd have to have an AVR that has a new version of the Dolby Surround up mixer that uses the front wides. I have an HTP1, which doesn't have the newest version, but they've implemented their own kind of workaround called wide synth, something like that. And all it does is it mixes whatever's in the side surround and the corresponding front speaker, and it kind of like it mixes them together and then lowers the volume on that. And so it makes the wides active even if there's no content in the wides. I think more and more stuff will be in 9.1.6 because Netflix is kind of pushing for that, and a lot of the Pro Tools and things like that they support that. And so the easier it is for others, studio guys, to have 9.1.6 mixes or setups, they'll probably do those mixes and you'll be able to utilize that. So I guess for native content, you might not get as much in the 9.1.4 setup, but if you have the ability to upmix, then I think it can still be useful. Let's see here. Travis, back to the hot dog talk. Best hot dogs are Tuscan hot dogs, deep fried with bacon wrap. Let's go. The bacon wrap. So in LA, we have those street vendors, and you get out of the nightclub or whatever, you're going to a game, and you'll see these people, and they'll have a hot dog in a cart, and they'll have like onions, and the hot dogs are wrapped in bacon. And yeah, we call them danger dogs because you never know. Just some person on the street, danger dogs. We used to call them dirty dogs too, but danger dogs, I think, is kind of like the term. They taste excellent. I don't know what else they put on there. They put all kinds of stuff on there. And just somebody with a cart. The funny thing is, last time I saw it at one of the soccer games, is now they take Venmo too. You know what I mean? So now they're a little more official. Like, yeah, you can just scan their Venmo. You're good to go. Static Age. I tried hot dogs in the air fryer tonight, and oh my god, there was I guess I'll have to try air fryer. What the heck? What are we talking about here? Talk about everything. Mosin. Okay, so Revive was responding to Mosin. Said the build I did was supposed to be 7.1.6, but the client wanted to move the sofa so far back that I'm about to switch to 9.1.6, so no other integrator walks in and judges. And Chuck says my preference is 9.1.4 since my basement is really wide. And I think that's a good point. Depends on your layout. If there's a big gap between your surround and your front speaker and your place is huge, just think about it. Like where do you feel like you need something to be filled in, wides, or do you need that top middle? I don't know. Oh man, this is what's great about you guys. Like we just go off on the air fryer talk. Totally use the air fryer, grill, and cook burger. What the heck? I haven't tried these things. The air fryer. Okay. All right. What do you guys know about the Zojirishi? Whatever. I don't know how to say that. The rice cooker I was showing you guys. I have this fancy rice cooker that it's constantly monitoring the rice and comes out perfectly. Let me see. Take off that start comment 9.1. Okay, answer that. Okay, so John says, being in another country, I bought the digital version of the toolkit. So he's referring to the spatial audio calibration toolkit, and it only has files, not a menu. And yes, and the reason being, we organize the files so that they're in order, right? So 0, 1, 0, 2. I think 0 might be 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 2. Anyway, if you just put them in alphabetical order, then you'll see all the stuff as they should be and grouped in the proper way. So if you put that into, let's say, Plex, all the stuff will be in order. Is it as nice as the menu? Maybe not, but it's not bad. This depends. Sometimes scrolling on these things is not the best, but it's pretty easy. I actually use the digital one pretty much all the time, just because I don't have a Blu-ray player. Do I? I don't. Yeah, I do have a Blu-ray player, but not a 4K UHD one. Big John, let me take a sip of this real quick. Big John says, for LCR speakers, should I try? I get 3 identical speakers or 2 really nice LNR speakers for stereo surround or stereo sound. 3 identical or 2 really nice and a brand match center. I will be using for music and movie listening. If you can. This is tricky because you said 2 really nice LNR speakers, which kind of implies that the 3 identical speakers are not really nice. So I'd need a little bit more clarity on that. Like how much nicer are the really nice LNR speakers, I would typically say the 3 identical speakers are going to be more cohesive if they're identical speakers. Because even when you have stuff where they say it's timbre matched, usually what that means is they're just using the same tweeter, right? A lot of times you'll have one where the center has 5 1/4 inch woofers, and then you may have some towers and are using 6 1/2. Those can sound very different. The directivity index on those could be very different. And even though they have the same tweeter and the woofer kind of looks the same except larger. And even when you go with a tower that has, let's say, 5 1/4 inch drivers in the tower, and your center has 5 1/4, or let's just say 6 1/2, more realistic. Your center has 6 1/2. Your tower also has the same 6 1/2. It still doesn't mean that they're going to sound the same. So timbre matched, you're kind of taking their word for it because they're the part of the same lineup. You just assume, well, same lineup, it's going to sound the same, and a lot of times they don't. You can take a look at the measurements for a lot of these speakers, and they just don't. They're not the same. So if you get the same exact speaker, you're going to get a better chance of actual timbre matching, I should say. Let's see here. I'll just go through. Marv says, just cook rice manually on a stovetop. Nah. I like mine has a timer, so I wake up to fresh rice. You know what I mean? Chuck Burgess, and depends on TV or an ATS. I have TV, so match center. Oh, ATS, acoustic transparent screen. Yeah. To Imperi, I love the identical method of implementation for sound. You would never have a different L versus R. Why would you want center to be different? The other aspect of that is, let's say you have one of those MTM designs, right? And you have the MTM for left, and you have the MTM for the right, and then for the center, it's actually the same exact thing except you lay it on its side. Just the fact that you're laying it on its side, if you're not exactly on access to all of them, that center might not still not sound the same just because it's laid on its side, right? Moving left to right off access to a speaker that's placed horizontally is not the same as going left and right to that same exact speaker placed vertically. So just things to think about. Rick, I see your question. I don't know very much about that, so I'm gonna just kind of leave that for somebody else if they have the answer. Revive says, here's a good one. Most folks using in-wall speakers, infinite baffle, don't know how to prep the wall cavity properly. Do you have a go-to method of prepping walls for an in-wall speaker? That I do not know. So, as far as prepping the wall cavity properly, I would probably be the one that you're talking about who does it incorrectly. So I'm not the one. Paul says, if you don't change your output to stereo or have it auto match content, 3 matching is a must in my opinion for music. But as long as the center does good voice, you can get away with a decent experience. And you know what? This is what I like about Paul is a lot of times we're talking about the theory, right? And yeah, that's not going to be perfectly timbre matched. But if you step back for a second, right, and say, okay, realistically, will you still have a good experience? And the answer is, yeah, you'll probably, if they're not exactly the same, you'll probably still be, have a decent experience, So it's just one of those things you kind of have to, you have to trade it off in your mind and see what's what and what's worth it to you, The biggest reason to get a different center is purely for placement. Otherwise, always go for matching. And you know what? I'll tell you, in my living room situation, actually, in my home theater, I don't have a matching center. And in my living room, I also don't have a matching center. But I've chosen speakers that take extremely well to EQ. So maybe that would be a big consideration. Look at the directivity index on these speakers. And if you see it where the bass region is starting to go up, and then it goes down and then up again, something like that, where there's where it's not just one solid line, that means it's probably not going to take very well to EQ in that range where it changes, right? Look for something that, regardless, it doesn't matter if it's a straight line, it doesn't matter if it's kind of like this, the slope of it. For what I'm saying, right? It does matter. It does matter because it tells you, the dispersion characteristics of that speaker. So it does matter. But all I'm saying is, if it's a smooth line, it's EQable. And if you have speakers that are EQable, the left, the center, your front stage, LCR, are all take well to EQ, then you can get them to sound more similar, right? So what else we got here? Van Gool asked, for the Atmos Height speakers, do they need to be the same brand? That's more, I think that is one area where it's less critical. Yeah. Our ability to perceive those sounds is not great. So yeah, I think you could get away with getting different speakers, but sometimes you just want to get all the same ones just for the way it looks and just the peace of mind knowing that it's one less thing that that might be not as good as you want it to be. But again, in my situation, I don't have the same height speakers. I'm fine with it. Would I want it to be all the same? Yeah, if I could, then yeah, cool. Okay. What are you guys saying in here? Okay, so Revive his answer to the prepping the wall for installation. He says, "Oh well, if I can contribute a bit, Dynamat or some similar product on the inside of the wall. Wow, sufficient insulation, R19 itchy stuff, and caulking the studs to the drywall." Okay, I'll take your word for that. All right. Paul says, for wife appeal, we are installing some in-wall LCRs. Only issue, the center would be set back about 12 inches above an entertainment cabinet. Any way to minimize reflections off the cabinet? If it's that's pretty close. You know, that cabinet's it's gonna reflect off of that, and it'll act as sort of a waveguide. And I'll tell you, it does affect the measurements and the sound. You know, in my situation, I have a center channel that's mounted to the wall. I have an ultra short throw projector, which needs to be a certain distance. And that's the toughest part, is where do I put a center channel? And so I have the center channel behind the ultra short throw, and it's acting like a shelf, and it does bounce off that thing, and it does affect the sound. Again, one of the things that I can recommend is maybe look for a speaker that is a concentric or coaxial driver. And the reason being is that the off-axis response is more similar all the different ways. So even if you're getting a reflection, it's gonna not be as bad, right? As one where, let's say, if you have a two-way speaker and you're getting a weird reflection, and that reflection is a sound that's very different. Recommended is to not have anything too close to it, because you will have some comb filtering, right? So John Hour says, "What the hell is an infinite baffle?" I hear it and I'm like, okay. So the baffle on a speaker is where you mount the drivers, right? The front baffle, right? So in a car, the baffle could be whatever it's mounted to. It could be your door panel is the baffle. Infinite baffle just means it's not really infinite, right? Because there's no wall or no mounting surface that is like goes on forever, right? But the idea is kind of the same. The way that speakers work is sound is going forward, but there's also sound that goes backwards, right? And if you can separate the sound that goes back from the one that goes forward, then what am I trying to say? I wish Aaron were here, is what I'm trying to say. But at a certain point, you can have a baffle that's so big that none of the sound that's going to the back is affecting any of the sound that's going forward. I think that's it. You know, so if you have let's say if you have a baffle that's only this wide, definitely bass is so long that it's going to get around that and eventually come out and cancel some of the waves that are going forward, right? And so typically what we do is we have a box, right? So you put it in a sealed enclosure, let's say. So you're separating out what's the sound that's going forward from the sound that's going back into the enclosure. But that doesn't always have to be the case, you know? An infinite baffle for a car would be something where let's say you have a woofer and it's firing out to the outside world, right? And the other drivers firing inside. Actually, that's called an infinite baffle, but now that I think about it, it's more like a sealed enclosure, except you're inside the enclosure. Funny. Hopefully that answers a little bit, but basically you don't actually have to have a box. You just need to separate the waves that are going back from the waves that are coming forward. And the larger that wall, so if it's a wall, right, that whole wall is acting like a baffle. I think that's it. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think that is the correct answer. Michael Square says doesn't have a box. Let's see here. Reverend Slim is still chiming in on the question about the center channel. A match set sure does sound nice and cohesive. Mm-hmm. In this setup here, I have all the same speaker, other than the sub, of course. And there is a little bit of like, man, everything pans around so nicely. But if I measure every single one of these, near field and main listening position, all of them still measured slightly different because of the location that they're at. Right? So, let's see here. Trying to find a few more. We're up on an hour, and you guys might be tired of hearing me rant on. Let's see. Here's Revive. He says, as far as the room is concerned, it's infinite if the front and rear of the driver are facing completely different enclosed spaces. And Reverend Slam says, infinite baffle equals how baffled I was watching Kinds of Kindness just now. All right. Yeah, Revive says, see, you're right. I was right. You're inside a sealed enclosure in the car. Oh, man, fun times with you guys. I wish the other dudes were here because it's kind of fun to bounce ideas off of them, but you know, sometimes they're busy. I try to do this all the time. You know, it's fun. Hopefully, I'll have some videos for you guys. It's just my whole place is a mess. It's hard to film. Just, you know, the kids being on their break, all that stuff. So hopefully I'll have some more videos and I'll do the whole YouTube thing, and be that YouTuber character. Elac 3. Okay, I think I got everything. Any more start comments here? I got that one, and I got this one. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So, a few things before I go. Somebody's asking about the hat. Shop.dailyhifi.com, and you can get some merch, represent for the Daily HiFi Crew. And if you want to listen to the audio only version of the podcast, you can go to anchor.fm/Daily HiFi. If you want to listen in the car, you don't have to watch and you can be safe. And lastly, if you want to join the Daily HiFi Crew, you go to crew.dailyhifi.com, and we have an after show where we hang out. We talk about all kinds of stuff, rice cookers, air frying hot dogs, and once in a while we talk about audio stuff. But mostly it's about us making fun of Chana. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So if you're into that sort of thing, crew.dailyhifi.com. We have an after show. We have a group chat. And, you know, sometimes actually it's a good place to get some deals. You know what I mean? Because we might have some extra stuff, and we all ask the group first, hey, anybody here interested? No? Okay, cool. I'll sell it somewhere else. But, you know, we all help each other out there, and I think it's a cool way to bring the community together. So anyway, that's it for today. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next week, hopefully with the others. All right, take care. Bye-bye.